New this morning, smoke and fire disrupts the lives of more than 36 people at an Albuquerque apartment complex overnight. Matt has more on what we know so far. Hey, Matt.
Good morning, Liz. Unfortunately, it looks like that fire started in an apartment on the 3rd floor of the complex that's at Western Skies in Central. Now, because of that, we know about 40 people are waking up somewhere other than their own home. You can see some heavy smoke and flames pouring from the 3rd floor. Firefighters rushed out there. They went door to door. They were doing some search and rescue, all while fighting the fire. It turns out everyone did get out safely, and the apartment where the fire started was vacant. But the smoke did a lot of damage, and the gas or the electricity had to be shut off, so everybody who lives here has to find another place to stay for now. Now, as we've come to expect in times of crisis, the Red Cross is stepping in to help. We know nobody was hurt in the fire, and investigators have not said what started it. Liz?
All right, Matt, thanks. A large crowd is expected at tonight's Albuquerque City Council meeting, where councilors are trying to avoid a repeat of the chaos that happened a couple of weeks ago that brought that meeting to a halt.
This is no longer your meeting. This is the people's meeting. This is democracy in action.
The takeover of council chambers by protesters on May 5th sparked a set of interim rules to keep the peace. Only one speaker is now allowed at the podium at a time with a 2-minute limit. No signs or props are allowed. A few days later, at another meeting, some protesters were actually cited by City Hall.
They now know the rules, and hopefully they will comply and conform with the rules, because if not, and hopefully that will not be the case, they will be escorted out of the chambers once again.
Just so you know, the ACLU may file suit on behalf of some of these silent protesters who were removed, calling it a free speech issue. The interim rules will be discussed further at tonight's meeting.
The Albuquerque City Councilors are also set to decide on the city's $600 million budget tonight. Pay raises for city workers is one of the hottest issues. The mayor's budget plan has a 1% pay raise for regular city workers, but some councilors want more, pointing to top staffers in the mayor's office who each got raises of more than 20%. One councilor told us several days ago he's willing to kill some of the mayor's budget requests to cover those big pay hikes.
If that means that the administration will have to cut back on their budget proposal and their budget desires, so be it.
Some councilors are considering a 3% pay raise for regular city workers. The meeting begins tonight at 5 o'clock downtown.
The autopsy report is out on Mary Hawks, the 19-year-old auto theft suspect who was shot and killed by an APD officer a month ago. The Office of the Medical Investigator says Hawks had meth and other drugs in her system. It states that she was shot 3 times on the left side of her head, on her left upper arm and shoulder, all with bullets that were fired in a downward angle. APD officer Jeremy Deere shot Hawks near Wyoming and Zuni after he says Hawks pointed a gun at him. APD says that was a picture of her gun, but has not said if her prints or DNA are on it. There's also no video of the shooting on the officer's lapel cam. The department still has not said if it malfunctioned or if Officer Deere did not turn it on like he said he did.
5:04 now. It was brief, but on Friday we heard for the very first time from the 12-year-old boy who fired a shotgun blast into a crowded middle school in Roswell back in January.
Mason, it's my understanding that we're here today for a change of plea. Is that your understanding?
Yes, Your Honor.
Mason Campbell answered the judge in court, pleading no contest to bringing a deadly weapon to school and aggravated battery with a deadly weapon. He shot Nathaniel Tavares and Kendall Sanders. Mason's uncle and attorney, Jason Bowles, offered an apology on his nephew's behalf.
He is genuinely sorry. He's genuinely apologetic and sad and hurt about what happened to Kendall and Nathaniel.
Many reports have suggested Mason was bullied, and that is what led to the shooting. His lawyers say that'll come out at a sentencing hearing a little bit later. In some other news this weekend, what started as a graduation party ended with a deadly shooting in Albuquerque. Now, so far, nobody is calling this exactly a murder. Here's what we do know. Early Sunday morning, neighbors heard 4 gunshots, followed by screaming on Spotted Pony Avenue. It's here near Gibson and Unser. When investigators got out there about 10 minutes later, they found one man shot and killed. They're now interviewing people who saw what happened, including one who may be involved. They have not said if they've arrested anyone so far.
School leaders aren't saying much about a middle school teacher accused of groping students. 3 students at PR Leyva Middle School in Carlsbad told police that their teacher, Kenny Groves, had touched their butts during school hours. Detectives say in one case, Groves left his hand on the student's behind so long that a fellow student was able to snap a picture with a cell phone for evidence. According to the criminal complaint, the school district fired Groves, indicating he was under investigation for allegations of inappropriate contact with female students. A young girl who was bombarded with sexual text messages by her 5th grade teacher is now suing him and the Albuquerque School District.
I have learned there's a line crossed, and I absolutely will never cross it again.
That was Jacob Lawler last November, apologizing before he was sentenced to 3 years in prison for sending the girl, one of his 5th grade students at Edward Gonzalez Elementary, thousands of inappropriate text messages a few years back. In a federal lawsuit filed last week, the girl and her family claims APS is just as guilty as Lawyer. The suit claims that APS had a duty to properly screen, advise, and/or discipline staff, and that APS has tolerated and/or encouraged inappropriate and abusive behavior, referring to a string of teachers arrested for committing sex crimes against students. APS has declined to comment.
A big week facing the Veterans Administration. On Wednesday, the U.S. House could give the head of the Veterans Administration hospitals the power to fire and demote executives behind the VA's latest controversy. This is all about vets not getting the care they need and dozens even dying before they could simply get an appointment. Last week, U.S. Senator Tom Udall from here in New Mexico says he has gotten the same complaints about Albuquerque's VA hospital and will start an investigation. Now the government's trying to find out if these cases are isolated or if it's a systematic problem.
The president is madder than hell.
President Obama's aides say he is furious, obviously, as you just heard, and demanding that the problems get fixed immediately. The top health official for the VA, Dr. Robert Petzel, resigned last week, and a lot of people are calling for the VA's secretary, Mr. Shinseki, to go ahead and resign, but so far he says he's not going to do that.